Okay, I'm going to talk about why AI is going to be the most impactful thing we'll probably see in the next 100 years, if not more. And not only why it's going to be so impactful, but how you can actually take advantage of it, particularly if you're a business owner and you're seeing all this, you're not really sure like how to actually implement and take advantage of AI in your business. So before we get into it, I kind of want to walk through the evolution of how we got here to kind of give a little bit of history. So most people are probably familiar with the Industrial Revolution, but a short kind of summary of it is that people went to school to be trained to work in factories, right? Just the same way that people now go to school to work office desks. Back in the 1900s, we would go and learn how to be factory workers, and around 38% of people were factory workers, which is almost a third of the population. Sorry, over a third of the population, which is just a staggering number to think about it. Again, comparable to the amount of people that work in office kind of computer settings. And what ended up happening is that we figured out a way to automate manufacturing, basically building machines that would handle the manufacturing like we do today. And they ended up doing the job that these factory workers would do, but they would do it a lot faster and a lot cheaper and a lot more effective just because they can continuously keep running on autopilot. They weren't expensive as far as the initial cost, but then once you have that, then you don't need to pay continuous costs like you do for people. You don't need to feed them. You don't need to deal with all the other headaches that come with hiring people. And then obviously they're more effective. They're going to be working 24/7. They don't need breaks. And so the same way that we're kind of now seeing that in the 21st century, we had that in factories with the Industrial Revolution. And society had to change. It had to completely adapt to this new world. And people shifted a lot to technology, which leads us to the kind of next revolution we had, which was the internet revolution. And this is the revolution that, we're kind of just coming out of. But basically, or as I should say, probably just seeing the end of it. But the internet started as this kind of gimmicky tool slash technology. It didn't have a lot of use, right? When it first came out, people didn't really know like what it was. It was kind of just like this thing, and like it was almost like how we see the radio today, if you will. Doesn't have too much use. It's kind of just a thing. But then eventually, people started understanding it more and started building software on top of it. Started building platforms. Started building hardware. We had companies like Microsoft and Apple and all these different companies that started building on top of the internet. And that's when it became super powerful. That's when it actually, got into the hands of, millions, billions of people at this point, and connected the entire world. And obviously, we kind of know how that ended. But before that, we had, the dot-com bubble, which is, I think, is comparable time to where we are right now in AI. I think things are very hyped up right now, and they probably will come down a bit. But that doesn't mean that AI will not be a revolutionary thing, just like the internet was. So to recap, the dot-com bubble, basically what happened was people were very excited by the internet. Once people started understanding it and adopting it, it became very clear that this was going to be a revolutionary technology, and investors and companies went ham on it. They would invest millions, if not billions, of dollars into it. Tech companies were super overinflated on valuations, similar to what we're seeing in AI right now, where any AI company is able to raise a ridiculous valuation, and you see so many different AI companies kind of popping up. I think we're going to have a very similar kind of burst in the bubble, just like we did with the dot-com bubble, where we saw 80% of publicly traded internet companies basically lose 80% of their value. So that's quite a staggering number. At the time, it was kind of like seen as like the end of the internet, but obviously we kind of got past it. So this is kind of when you look at this timeline, is a very interesting kind of way to look at history and see how it's going to kind of play out if you believe that history repeats itself, which it tends to do so. And so I say this all because I want you to really understand. And obviously, this isn't like I'm not the only one saying this. I'm not the one that crafted this, but AI will be more impactful than any revolution we've seen, probably put together. It'll be more impactful than the internet. It'll be more impactful than the industrial revolution and any revolutions that came before that. Obviously, I just kind of touched on kind of the two main or kind of general ones, but there's been a lot more. I think AI is going to make these look minuscule compared to it, just because of the abilities that it can do. So where factory and machinery could replace factory workers, AI doesn't really have a limit, right? Right now it's software, but once we have that in hardware form through robots and other just kind of physical aspects, it's going to be able to kind of replace a lot of the physical labor, potentially even military needs, in some of that regard. But what I really want to focus on is kind of the business impact of all of this, because there's a lot of different ways you can look at this. There's the global impacts, there's the political impacts, there's all that, but really an everyday person doesn't have any control of that. But if you are a business owner and just like a lot of people are, there is a real way to not only like utilize AI, but to actually have it positively impact your business. And so just overall taking advantage of the situation, but also learning from the past, learning from the dot-com bubbles that we've had, and how to kind of circumnavigate that. So just to kind of repeat, as I said, just like we automate everything in manufacturing, we're going to be automating every single thing within a business. So people that work in companies in their current form, I think in about 10, 20 years, it's going to look a lot different. I don't think you're going to need as many people. I think the things that people will be doing is going to be drastically different. And I think businesses, the people that they do utilize is mainly going to be overseas talent that is really, really cheap and probably just does some of the kind of middleman work that you may need. But overall, I think we're kind of heading in a direction where humans over time will probably become more and more obsolete. And that's kind of a scary thing, for people that work within these businesses. We're going to have to figure out a way to transition. But, for this conversation, I'm going to actually talk about how you can positively impact from, running a business. So what I want to kind of showcase is how we, at our business, Creme Digital, we're a no-code and AI studio. And, we talk the talk, we also walk the walk. We're building our own internal tools in order to kind of take advantage of this. And so I kind of want to give a really high level overview of like what we're doing and how you guys, if you're watching and run a business, how you can kind of implement a similar thing. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because this is still very much a work in progress. But there's kind of two layers of when you think about AI, right? You have the actual AI, you can call it agent or automation in the background. And what we use for that is a tool called Gumloop. And Gumloop is basically a Zapier type tool, but for AI. And so what it lets us do is create very complex kind of automations that, take, the ChatGPTs of the world and all that to just a completely new level, right? We're basically able to use different data. We're able to scrape the web. We're able to create loops. We're able to break things up, export it to different places, etc. It just really puts a very big emphasis on, customizing AI. And so we use this tool as kind of the back end of how we build our AI. We're able to train it on some data. We're able to pull data from different places and then put it back into some kind of interface, whether that's Notion or, I'll talk about what we're doing in a second with our own kind of interface. But this tool is, anyone can kind of use it. It's a little bit technical, but it gives you kind of the ability to really craft your own AI in a way that is streamlined to your process, right? So I'm sure if you're watching, you're familiar with ChatGPT and you're familiar with all these kind of like commercialized AIs. The issue with these AIs is that they do everything and they don't actually automate anything either, right? They will automate, maybe a copywriter's job, but for every time you need to put in a prompt, you're going to get a text prompt back, and really all you can do with that is copying and pasting it into different kind of forms. It's not that useful if you're a business owner and you're like, how can I actually run my business using AI. And so this is kind of the solution, because it actually lets you create a process and a flow that connects all the different pieces together so that you have one streamlined automation. So we use gum loops for this. Check it out. You can use a lot of different things. I'm not associated with them at all, but I just think it's a great tool. And then what we're doing on the front end, on the interface, and this is where I think another opportunity lies, right? You have the AI, you have this kind of back end, if you will. But where I think no code comes in, and what we're kind of doing is, building our own interface, right? Because if we're using existing interfaces, then again, that limits us to having to play within the constraints of those interfaces. And so what we've decided to do is use no code and use Bubble, which is our main no code tool of choice, and basically building some front ends for this AI that will streamline a lot of our processes. I don't want to kind of show too much here. It's very much a work in progress. But the idea is that we'll have this internal tool. It's going to be powered by AI on the back end using gum loops. And then we'll have our own interface that is plugged into this using no-code tools like Bubble. We will be able to rapidly iterate on it and pull the data in all in one place. And it's going to be like a fraction of the cost, one, to build the software, but also the goal is to completely replace the need for any project managers within our business. I'll keep updating on how that goes. But the goal is, how can we streamline the client experience so that when a client comes into our business, they give us all the information we need. We feed that to the AI. The AI handles all the admin kind of work when it comes to planning out that project, and scoping it out and setting up the user stories and sitemap, etc. And then feeds that back to our internal tool here, which will actually allow us to view it and move in and manipulate it. So you need both kind of pieces to kind of work together. Usually people think about one or the other. What we're really doing, and what most businesses should be doing, is how can you tie in the interface and the AI into one kind of beautiful custom experience. So I know this may sound like a lot. It is, if you're completely new to this world, it may sound still like gibberish to you, and that's totally cool. But if you are a business that potentially could benefit from AI and internal tools, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation and see if I can just give some personal advice, or if what we're doing at the agency can help you, and we can take care of implementing this for something similar in your business. So hope this was interesting. If you have any comments, please leave it down. I'll respond. I know it's been a while since I've posted, so I'll keep these going. Any next videos that you want to see, also drop them down below, and I'll include my Instagram and Twitter if you want to reach out to me there as well. So appreciate it. See you on the next one.